Hi, I'm Ernesto Cervini. I'm a Canadian drummer-composer from Toronto, Ontario. Growing up, I was exposed to all kinds of music, from jazz to pop, classical to music theater. My influences were super varied. My siblings and I made music together all the time, and we were part of a band now known as the Toronto All-Star Big Band. Our next guest is a multi-Juno Award-winning musician, composer, and collaborator. She's a musical peer of mine, and I included her tune Oriole on my latest album, A Canadian Songbook, which celebrates Canadian compositions. Please welcome saxophonist Allison Au.
Hey Ernesto, thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for doing this.
My honor.
I'm excited to, chat with you about just kind of your life in music and how you got here, basically, how you got to where you are today. And, the idea with this, with these interviews is just kind of trying to discover everyone's different paths and the commonalities that we have growing up as musicians in Canada, and then also the differences, of course, based on our specific upbringing and where we were and how our parents decided to raise us. So why don't we start with that? So where were you born?
I was born and raised in Toronto.
Okay.
I was actually born downtown, in hospital downtown, Toronto General.
Okay.
And I grew up kind of in the north part of the city, so very suburban, quiet. I grew up in North York, like Bayview and Finch neighborhood. Coming to music was kind of gradual. Like my dad was always a music lover. Neither of my parents are musicians. But my dad always loved music and had a really extensive CD and vinyl collection. And that was kind of my gateway into just like listening to music.
Nice.
My first exposure.
So would you dig through those or were you just hearing what they were listening to and getting excited by it? Pretty
much. I mean, he was great at like always having music playing in the background of a lot of family gatherings and parties, birthday parties, any social event that my parents hosted. And we did a lot. I think there were 3 of us kids, so there was always something happening. And they'd have friends come over all the time. So I just remember music playing all the time in the background. And I don't know what spurred me to kind of start digging through their collection. But yeah, I think it was very much so like the tactile relationship with picking up physical CDs and physical records, where you could look at pictures and read the liner notes and see who played on what and who recorded things, like even, the engineers and the producers. So yeah, without really even being that mindful of what I was looking at, I think I really liked picking things up. I guess I should mention, like, my mom is also an avid reader, so we had a lot of books at the house as well. So I think I was surrounded by books and music at a very young age and just pulling things off shelves, really.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you brought up your parents. Can we talk about them for a second? Because I know your most recent album, Migrations, is kind of about your parents' journey to Canada. So can you expand a little bit on that?
Yeah, so my parents come from very diverse backgrounds. My dad immigrated to Canada in 1972. He came for work. He was born in Malaysia, and his parents come from southern China. So it was really interesting to see through generations how, on his side, each generation has moved to a different country in search of work opportunity or life change, or, oftentimes fleeing from war and economic hardship.
Wow.
And on my mother's side, my grandparents are from Poland and migrated eventually to Canada through Israel after World War II, and landed in Montreal. And then my mother was born in Montreal, and then ended up in Toronto looking for work right after university. So that's where my parents met. So I feel like in a lot of ways, like so many Canadian stories, mine is quintessentially Canadian, because my parents are both from very vastly and dramatically different places, but ultimately met and united in Toronto, which is also such a multicultural city in so many ways. So so they come from very, very different places, but found obviously common ground.
Did the fact that your parents came from such diverse backgrounds, did that influence the kind of music you were listening to growing up?
Yes and no, but I guess inevitably yes, I suppose. I mean, just by virtue of my dad being my dad and who he is. Being an Asian person, growing up. I mean, so there's a lot of delineations, I think, in terms of identity that I've started to come to terms with as an adult. But with hindsight, looking back, my father is ethnically Chinese, born and raised in Malaysia, went to school in London where he was one of very few minorities in his class in the late 60s and early 70s when he attended school in England. And for him, finding vinyl was kind of activity that was kind of therapeutic for him. I think he's told me about some of his years in England, and I think he felt very isolated. Kind of being an ethnic minority, he recalls not ever being asked to hang out with anybody. Yeah, and I think for him, music became kind of like refuge, in some ways.
Wow.
And at that time, I mean, he's a big fan of Nat King Cole. Like that, those are some of his records. A lot of jazz. He loved opera and classical music. So he kind of, I mean, he describes to me now when I ask him about those years, he would go record shopping on the weekend when he was, just having fun away from school, basically, or taking a break from school during the week.
Yeah.
So music became integrated into his lifestyle as kind of seeking therapy, I guess, in a way. I mean, I don't want to put it in those words, but just finding some solace, I think, in that feeling of solitude. But he
Yeah.
would have brought these records, like a lot of the records he had at home were ones that he bought when he was in London, I know. And then his collection just expanded. My mom's always loved music too, but my dad was always the more avid listener, so you have a really wide range of stuff. So there was a lot of jazz, there was a lot of classical music, opera, like I said.
Wow.
And I think as I was a kid, he also expanded into world music, and we had like Buena Vista Social Club. I'm trying to think, we have like Jimmy Cliff in the collection. There's a lot of music theater too, Rodgers and Hammerstein. West Side Story was a big one.
I can relate. I can relate to
Yeah.
that.
So without me knowing, I think I was getting a lot of sounds of the foundations of jazz without even knowing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Stevie Wonder. I mean, like all these great R&B and soul artists too. He would listen to. But yeah, I guess so. Maybe just by virtue of my dad's experience, how he found music. He listened to music, of course, in Malaysia too. But
Right.
I think it was when he was in England where he started really amassing a collection
Yeah.
of vinyl, which he brought with him. I'm sure that's imbued how or like my taste now inevitably. Yeah.
When did you start, or did you start zeroing in on music as your main focus?
So I've spoken about this in some other interviews I've done in the past. It was really seeing there was so at the time I was at Claude Watson, there was a band teacher who happened to be a woman who played saxophone, and her name is Maggie Thompson. I think she's since retired, but she's still active in her community doing. I think the last time I spoke to her, she's doing community ensembles and stuff.
That's great.
Yeah, so I've kind of kept in touch with her. But I saw her leading one of the other like grade 6 ensembles or grade 7 ensembles when I was in grade 4 when I just started. And I just knew I wanted to play saxophone. I think she had a really big part in that.
Yeah.
Just seeing another woman, she just
Yeah.
exuded like this fun energy, I think. And so even before I had a chance to try the saxophone, I just knew like the image of it was just so engaging, captivating to me.
Yeah. That's amazing. So Maggie Thompson, that's so great that there was like one specific person. A lot of the time when I've been talking to people, we end up talking about influential teachers, of course, because that's so important. And a lot of I feel like almost everyone I've talked to mentioned someone who was teaching them in elementary school or high school, and how these music teachers and these music programs are so vital because they kind of lay the groundwork and they really inspire and excite kids and make them want to do this thing and then that excitement, I mean, for some of us just goes on and on and on and lasts forever. But but having those music teachers that inspire us. And it's amazing that seeing her play the saxophone was like, you're like, okay, that's it. There it is. That's my instrument. That's where I want to go.
Yeah, I think, and I know it's like this cliche thing, but like seeing yourself, like having that concrete role model. I know we talk about it much more in the current conversation now, I think, than it was even like 10 years ago. But
sure,
I just think it is so impactful, and especially as a young person at that time, seeing another woman, I didn't see other women playing saxophone. I guess, to be fair, I wasn't in that many situations to see saxophone too. But there's so few role models, right?
Lisa Simpson and Maggie Thompson.
Exactly. And Lisa Simpson was a huge part too of my like imagery of what the saxophone looked like at that time. So yeah, it just meant the world to me.
That's awesome.
In that moment.
Okay, so then where did you go to high school?
So I continued on into the feeder high school from Claude Watson, which is Earl Haig Secondary. Mm-hmm. It was a combination of, there was a strike that year where there were no extracurricular activities.
Oh, no.
So the opportunity to join any extra bands were non-existent that year. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then it just happened. Yeah, it was like a terrible year to kind of start high school, I think. And then also hormones and not feeling like, friend groups are shifting. And I think just being in a larger student body all of a sudden. I think at the time, Earl Haig could still be this size. It was like almost 4,000 students.
Wow, yeah, that's a big
So I was going from like a really nuclear, like kind of family community at Claude Watson middle school into like a very large feeling, at least anyway, to me in my brain at that time, high school. And it just felt all of a sudden like I didn't know anybody. I was still getting, to know the teachers and the faculty there. And that year they had maybe one too many saxophone players. Mm-hmm. I can't remember. But the numbers were lopsided such that the band teacher wanted me to switch to oboe and not play saxophone.
Oh, no.
Yeah, and they really were putting pressure on me to switch. No. So I just had a really negative experience that first year, and I actually switched schools from grades 10 to 12, and I attended a totally different school and decided not to pursue music at all. So it really had like,
oh my gosh,
a flipped effect on me. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's, I certainly didn't know that. So where did you end up going to school?
I went to Don Mills Collegiate. I did like no more music really as part of like the day classes.
Yeah. Were you taking private lessons at the time?
I was, yeah. So I continued to take lessons, but I just didn't really, like, I wasn't involved in anything at the second high school I attended.
Yeah,
basically.
you're just taking still saxophone lessons, though.
Yes, on the weekends.
Okay.
But just nothing during the week, basically. So I really kind of cut it off in that way.
You finished grade 12, and you're not studying music. You're not playing music at school. How did you end up here? How did you end up back in music?
I totally. So my intention, when I was in grade 12, my intention was to not pursue any music. I was going to do a science degree. Mm-hmm. So I applied for arts and sciences. I applied for a forensic science program. But I loved saxophone in my private lessons. Mm-hmm. And the only program, I said, like, it might be fun, like a fun experiment to audition for one program. And we had a family friend who worked at Humber in the admin department. Mm-hmm. And he was always telling us how great the Humber music program was. Yeah. And he invited me to attend a few concerts. So I was aware of the jazz program there. Yeah. In my later years in high school. And had seen some shows by the students there. So I decided to audition for Humber College, but only for Humber College. Yeah. And just for fun, just to see, like, if I could get my bearings as to where I was kind of in the mix. And I auditioned, I was accepted. So then my rationale was, okay, I'm going to attend Humber for 1 year just to give myself a chance to, learn more about music. Because I still didn't really understand anything about jazz harmony. Like, I was taking lessons, but there's only so much you can do one-on-one with a teacher. I had no experience interacting. Yeah. Playing in a band, like very, very little and limited experience. So I accepted the admission, like, to Humber. So I went for a year, thinking that I would transfer and end up doing my science degree for second year and continue and switch.
Yeah.
But I met so many incredible people there, and I fell in love with all the, like, the faculty was great. I found just like great peers in the community of other students in first year. I was still like one of the most inexperienced students there, I think.
Wow.
But just kind of found my people. I think it just was like an instant connection.
Did you find it challenging to be one of the least experienced people? Was that a real challenge, or was that really like motivating?
It was motivating, but yeah, I mean, I think like the whole like imposter syndrome or just not feeling good enough to be around the people I was surrounded by.
Yeah.
That's something that I've struggled with. I mean, I feel like sometimes I still do struggle with that, to be honest. But yeah, it was a very challenging year, but I think ultimately I was able to overcome my feelings of inadequacy at the time, but also just knowing I just didn't have as much experience. And seeing that the other students really challenged me to bring me up to that level, expose me to some different stuff. Yeah.
That's amazing. Wow. So I'm still struggling to understand how you can apply to all these science programs, but then end up kind of like, did you get into the science stuff as well? Like, did you have all the options? You were just like, I think I'll just do saxophone. It feels right.
I mean, I was accepted to one or two science programs. And then one of them I wasn't. Like, I had to do an extra round of an application. Like, I had to write another essay, and I just opted not to do that. So,
yeah.
But I did have a couple options. I wouldn't say I had all the options, but I think, I think the music really pulled me in a direction where I felt that if I didn't try it in that year, that I might look back and really regret not having tried, just to see what might have gone.
This was your chance.
Yeah, that was kind of like my whole rationale at that time. So I was like, let me just try it for a year, because this is my time to do it. If I don't do it now, I might not ever do it. So.
Yeah, for sure. So now you're at Humber. Who did you study with when you were at Humber? Who were your private teachers?
Oh, I had a bunch of different. I had Kelly Jefferson for 1 year.
Never heard of him.
Who? Yeah. I had Andy Ballantyne for 2 years, mainly because we covered doubles and composition.
Yeah.
And sax. He was kind of like, I mean, he's such a great teacher, but so accomplished in a lot of different areas.
Yeah.
So I stayed with him for 2 years, and then I had Pat LaBarbera for my final year.
Did you have any Canadian, whether it's jazz or popular music, but any Canadian music that kind of you started checking out? Even like through when you got to Humber, was there stuff that you were checking out? Musicians, like local musicians or Canadian musicians that you were inspired by, or you were kind of
I mean,
looking
once
up
I
to?
started Humber, I became aware of like Tara Davidson, Christine Jensen, Rini Rosnes. I mean, I'm naming all women mainly because it was like such a mind-blowing discovery for me.
No, that's important too, though, because that's the reality of your story.
Yeah.
I mean, up until this last album, you've been really focused on having your own band and making that your kind of driving force, but behind you. And let me know if I'm putting words into your mouth, because I don't mean to do that. But kind of, it seems like it was the driving force behind your composing and just your focus as a musician. So, is that something you always knew, that you wanted to be a band leader, and that was something you were gonna?
I think so. Yeah, maybe looking back now with some perspective, I think that's probably true. But I think, I had, like I was saying, I had a really positive experience at Humber. I met so many incredible people, and it really opened my worldview about what I could achieve with music and the community that I found with all the peers that I met. But that being said, I did find the politics of school, which is inevitable in any program, the maybe, what's the best way to put it? Like, the kind of ranking system that's not super blatant, but inevitable, like to place students in ensembles.
But it exists, of course. Yeah.
I was never put in like the top ensembles. I never played with guest artists. I mean, I was relatively much less experience than a lot of my peers. So I just found myself in different kinds of ensembles that were still incredibly enriching to my experience, which
Yeah,
I think is
sure.
true with so many people. Like, for whatever reason, you miss a couple things, or you don't get that chance to work with somebody maybe that you really would have wanted to. So upon graduation, my whole goal was that I wanted to have a band that was my own, where I could have a platform to write and try material out. And I wasn't even, like, again, an experienced composer. And so creating the band the first year out of school was just an excuse to play with people that challenged me, who I thought were
Right.
better than me, who would push me.
Yeah.
And then to have people to play music that I didn't even know was going to be good, but like I just wanted to try stuff out with. Because I didn't feel like I had the chance to explore any of that in my time at school, basically.
And you did that right after school. Like you kind of started your trying to book gigs for your own band pretty shortly after.
So basically, I did a cruise ship contract immediately after graduating, which
Really?
at the time so many students did just to make some money.
Sure.
And it was
Yeah.
after the cruise ship, which I was, relatively optimistic to kind of take on that working opportunity. But
Yeah.
seeing a lot of that side of the business, and albeit it's a very niche for
Yeah.
sure, now that I see all the variety of work opportunities that you can have in music.
Yeah. Yeah.
The cruise ship really changed like my brain chemistry as well. So I would credit
Interesting.
maybe my motivation also to the experience I had on the cruise ship.
And your quartet, has it stayed mostly the same since?
Yeah, mostly
started?
the same. I mean, you've joined us for a few things. We've had like Dan Fortan, Ethan's played in it, but the core band has been relatively the same with, occasional subs and stuff. But
Yeah. But the core band has stayed the same from
yeah,
kind of
from the beginning.
That's amazing.
Yeah. It's
That's
been
so
hard
great.
to keep it together in the sense that, like, people move or they have other projects going
Yeah.
on. So, things kind of ebb and flow. But that's been an
Yeah.
important element to me because I thought it would be, and I've tried to stay loyal to the concept of like keeping the same personnel, but, adapting and growing the book of repertoire to see how much can change or vary when there's one thing that's constant. That's always been something that's
Yeah.
like really fascinated me.
And it is true. There is something about. I mean, I can definitely hear it when I hear your band play, and it's the band. There is something about making music with people over a period of time, and you develop this simpatico with them, and you just can read them, and you can feel them, and you just it's like the comfort you have with your siblings or your partner or your parents. It's that same comfort and
Yeah.
familiarity, but musically, which is kind of magical. I mean, your next chapter was doing the Migrations Project, which is a whole different kind of thing. So, what inspired you to do that project, and how did that come about?
Well, I guess the more mundane answer is we were commissioned, or I was commissioned to write something by the Royal Conservatory of Music, which was a
Yeah.
huge honor. We had performed a smaller show there, and we just kept in touch, and I was inquiring about another opportunity to play at some point. So he very kindly reached out to do this commission, and he said, if you can write something, the idea would be to premiere it at the 21C Music Festival, which is a festival they host every year at Kerner Hall. And they have a variety of bands, but it's all like new collaborations, or they commission other artists to write something completely new, basically.
Right.
So he kind of gave me carte blanche to write whatever I wanted to with any ensemble.
Wow.
So if there was some artist that I would love to collaborate, like to let him know and see if we could figure out what would be really different or a departure from what I have done in the past. So of course Lila Bialy came up in conversations, and as I was brainstorming a theme for the music, I knew that we would be opening for Danilo Perez's Global Messengers. And I checked out a bit of their music and realized like they integrate a lot of different world music instruments in a jazz context, but they have a lot of open-ended kind of song templates, I guess, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
So in light of who we're opening for, I brainstormed further and I thought it'd be cool to have a theme that was kind of global in scope.
Right.
And then I kind of just turned inwards and realized, like, oh, maybe I should just do something with my family history because
Sure.
there's all these different cultural influences, and that kind of started building the seeds of the music.
Of course. Yeah.
And I think it had a lot of reverberating effects for me personally anyway, because these are all stories and things about my family history that I knew about as a kid, and I've always heard these stories, but I never had an outlet to really express it in maybe in a more obvious way through my music. So I guess to answer your question further, like the element of voice, including Lila on the project, was something also that was really a departure for me. And in that sense, I felt it was in the spirit of the festival where we would be playing the music. But that forced me to start to integrate words. So I didn't want to presume to write lyrics on my own. So I ended up using poems and I adapted them for the music that I ended up writing. But yeah, just kind of pulling a lot of different influences and then taking the core ensemble, but also expanding the instrumentation. So that's kind of where I thought of keeping something constant still, which was the rhythm section, but then adding voice, and then we added string quartet and then vibraphone too. So
Yeah. That's so great. I love it.
just a fun opportunity to use instruments I never would have the chance to work with. And string quartet was something else that, I've loved on other people's records, and it's such a lush addition.
Yeah.
But I would never have a chance to do it otherwise if it wasn't for something like this, like a project like this.
I've always wanted to do something with string quartet, but I'm always so afraid.
Oh my God, you should.
I get so scared. I'm like, I don't know what to do. So I would love to talk now about, just quickly about the song of yours that I adapted for Turboprop and put on our new album, Canadian Songbook. So it's a song called Oriole, and it's from your album Forest Grove, right?
Yeah.
Which won the Juno. That was the Juno-winning album in what year?
2016.
And that was a song that frankly, I just fell in love with it. I started listening. It was one of those ones that I added to like my jazz playlist that I listen to all the time, and specifically that track. I just really loved it, and yeah. I mean, I'd love to know first of all, like, what does the title really mean, and how does it relate to the song, if it does at all?
Yeah. Yeah, that tune is kind of like an era of writing I was doing where, I still feel like I'm kind of in it, but it's just about volume. Like, I'm just trying to write as much music as possible.
Yeah.
The title, it actually means radiant circle or radiant cycle, I guess.
Okay.
And I think in that period of my composing, at that stage of my growth, I was just trying to find like canvases, like what can I do and how do I make it an interesting little journey. I guess like really all writing is, to be honest. So I don't know if it's anything special, but just how do I wrap it back up? How do I make it like a fun little template to play over, basically?
Yeah.
And of course, like I said, I'm still doing that, but yeah, I was just trying to write a lot of volume of material at that time. And then for that record specifically, we just ended up picking the strongest pieces of that book of tunes. There's a lot of music that we've discarded since and have never played.
Wow.
But yeah, that happened just be one, and I wanted to find like a really bright kind of title to match the tune I ended up writing. And that piece as well, the original lead sheet is not the tune that we ended up using on the record. It was heavily edited through rehearsals and workshopping.
Oh,
yeah.
Interesting. So when you bring a song to your band, is it then kind of open season?
Yeah. So as soon as I finish the notation aspect of it, I know it's like free, like, yeah, exactly, open season for when I bring it to rehearsal. I know it's not going to be the same, probably.
But that's so exciting to have a band that's that collaborative, that they're willing to, like, I almost help in the compositional and the arranging process. I mean, that's that's something. I mean, I experienced
Yeah.
that in Myriad
Yeah.
3, but that was a collective, so that was
Yeah.
absolutely the vibe. But as a band leader, when it's your band, it's great to have bandmates who are still willing to lend their expertise and their opinion and their ideas to your compositions. I think that's so awesome.
I would notate a lot more parts. Now it's less notated, it's more like lead sheets, I'd say, generally speaking. But I think it really stemmed from me wanting to be like, hey, I have all these notated parts. Is this playable? You know, and like literally asking the guys, like, is this good? Or like, would you write something different? Or how would you approach that line? So I think the dynamic stemmed from me actually just wanting to check parts because they were a little bit more articulated or
Yeah.
like specific. Now, having gone through that phase, but the realizing what the voices of each of the musicians
Yeah.
are, and having spent so many years with everyone, now it's more like general kinds of notation, but we've kind of kept that dynamic like, oh, I think this actually would be cooler if we did it like this.
Right.
Or what if we cut that section and we went here? I'm like, oh yeah, that's better, you know, because I do approach it like, first of all, more literally, I like only a bass player is going to tell me what bass part is playable, right? So I don't know. So it's kind of me coming at it like, you know better than I would. So please tell me what that would be.
Which I think is such a wonderful way to approach being a band leader, because it empowers everyone in your band to be able to contribute the way, like in a really meaningful way, right? Like even if you've written all of it, it doesn't sound like it's just you know.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's hard to verbalize.
That's
but,
great. I think that, yeah, and that's the goal too. But it's also like my insecurity as a writer, right? Like, or always having doubt when I pick up the pencil, like, is this good? Is it not good? But that process of bringing it to the band, I think, can help shape, even if it's like heavily workshopped or it comes out different on the other end. It's so informative to me, and I'm always growing from that process.
Yeah, and it's gonna make the sound. It's gonna make the music more varied, right?
Yeah.
Well, Allison, I want to thank you so much for doing this. It's really been, it's been a pleasure to hear your story, because, I didn't. It's so great for me to hear. I love learning how everybody, or how different people have, traveled their life and through music and to get to where they've arrived at, and like everyone's journey is so different, and I think that's what makes this whole thing so special, is that we don't all have to go the same route. Just a pleasure to chat with you.
Thank you so much.
And thank you, and of course, again, thank you for lending your song to me so that I could include it on my album. I love playing it. And yeah, and we'll talk again soon, and hopefully we'll play again really soon.
Yes. Well, congrats on a beautiful record, Ernesto.
Thank you.
I'm honored.
Thank you so much. We'll talk to you soon.
Take care.
Okay, bye-bye.